Hi there, and welcome to the Okey's crochet tutorial for making your very own adorable baby booty chicken. I'm Haley, and I'm so excited to crochet with you today. In this video, we'll go step by step so you can follow along at your own pace. Before we dive in, here are the basic crochet skills or stitches you'll need for this project. Single crochet, increase, decrease, and a chain. If you're new to any of these, don't worry, you can find quick tutorials for them right above this video or head to our crochet basics section on the tutorial page of our website. Take your time practicing before jumping in. There's no rush. Everything you'll need to make the baby booty chicken will be a stitch marker, a hook, a sewing needle, some safety eyes, and some stuffing. Now a quick note before we get started, don't hesitate to pause or rewind anytime. You've got this. Alright, let's get started. Grab your yarn and hook, and we'll begin with creating a magic ring alternative. Alright, holding your yarn in your non-dominant hand, create a small X over the top 2 fingers by wrapping it around. Insert your hook under the first loop and use it to grab the second loop, pull through. Yarn over and pull through again. Holding this loop on your hook, you're going to pull the little string tight. Now we're going to chain 1. Now into the second stitch from the hook, so starting at the hook, 1, 2. We're going to single crochet 12 times. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop. Now with 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through both loops. Repeat 11 more times. It may start to get really tight and really squishy, but I promise it does all fit. All right, so there is our magic ring alternative. All right, we're going to insert the stitch marker into the very first loop from where we are right now, so that we make sure to mark our spot for each round. Insert the stitch marker. All right. For round 2, we're going to be single crocheting and then increasing 6 times around here. So starting with a single crochet in the first spot where we put the stitch marker. And then in the very next loop, we're going to increase. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both loops, and then we're going to insert our hook into that very same stitch. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop. So you're basically doing 2 single crochets in 1 stitch. All right, so now that first step is complete. We're going to repeat that 6 times. So that's our first one. So single crochet, increase, 2, single crochet, increase, 3, and repeat that 3 more times. And final increase. All right, Move your stitch marker up. All right, next round is 2 single crochets and then an increase. So we're gonna go 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, increase. And we're going to repeat that so we have 6 total. So we're going to go 5 more times. Going 1, 2, increase. And that completes the second one. 1, 2, increase, third one. 1, 2, increase, 4. 1, 2, increase, 5. 1, 2, increase, 6. Move your stitch marker. All right, you'll start to notice your piece is going to start curving inwards. So what we're going to do is make sure we flip our crochet piece so that this little starting string is actually going to be on the inside. So we're going to flip it so that the top of it is this. So we're not going to crochet like this. It's going to be like this. That'll make sure the right side of the crochet is facing outwards in the chicken. All right, round 4 is going to be 3 single crochets and 1 increase. We're going to repeat that 6 times as well. So 1 single, 2 singles, 3, increase. All right, that's 1 time. 1, 2, 3, increase a second time. 1, 2, 3, increase a third time. 1, 2, 3, increase number 4. 1, 2, 3, increase number 5. 1, 2, 3, oops, increase number 6. All right, so again, it's curling that way, And sometimes it's hard to get it to flip until you get a little further in. So if you need to keep crocheting this way and then flip it in a little bit, that's totally fine too. All right, move the stitch marker up. All right, round number 5, 4 singles and an increase 6 times. So first single, second single, third single, fourth single, and an increase. One, 2, 3, 4, increase number 2. One, 2, 3, 4, increase number 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, increase number 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, increase number 5. Oops. 1, 2, 3, 4, increase number 6. All right, move your stitch marker up. All right, so now for rounds 6, 7, and 8, we're just gonna single crochet all the way around. So we're gonna do 36 single crochets. At this point, your shape should not be a circle, it's gonna kind of be a hexagon shape. That's just because of the increases, so totally normal. All right, again, 36 single crochets on this round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 6. All right, and if you are going around and you realize that maybe you don't have enough stitches or you have too many stitches, you can always unwind and go back and redo the 5th round to adjust, or if you know exactly where you messed up, you can. If you're like missing one stitch, you can always add an increase to one of the stitches. If you have an extra stitch, you can always add a decrease in there, and just kind of adjust it as you go, or you can unwind to wherever the problem is and restart. All right. Round number 7, same thing. We're just going to single crochet all the way around, or 36 single crochets. All right, so we're just single crocheting all the way around. And if your yarn keeps slipping off the hook, totally normal. Just obviously put it back on the hook. It's not a big deal. And one thing to note is when you are doing your single crochets, make sure that your hook is going underneath both the front and the back loops. If it doesn't, you can always redo it, but sometimes if you're going through just one of the loops, it will give it kind of a funky look. If you're going through the front loop only, it shouldn't change the outer look of the animal too much. However, if you're going in through only the back loop, there will be a little line, so you'll be able to tell that you're going through them, or through only one of them, so just make sure you're going through both loops at the same time. All right, that's round 7 done. All right, round number 8, still doing 36 single crochets, or single crocheting all the way around. At this point, you should notice a more significant curve to your object. So that's where you want to make sure that that tail is tucked up on the inside of the project. And then you're crocheting for lefties, you're going to be crocheting to the right. For righties, you're going to be crocheting to the left. make sure you're keeping that tension pretty even on all of your stitches. That'll help give your piece a more even look, and making sure that your stitches all look the same and you're not ending up with some stitches looser than others. So that tension is going to come from how you're holding the yarn in your non-dominant hand. All right, move that stitch marker up. All right, and for round number 9, we are going to be doing 5 single crochets and then an increase. And then we're going to be repeating that 6 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, increase, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, increase number 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, increase number 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, increase number 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, increase number 5, oops, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, increase number 6. Move that stitch marker up. All right, so now for rounds 10, 11, and 12, we're just going to be going around in single crochets. So this is going to be 42 single crochets. So round number 10. 1, 2, 3, oops, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. All right, move the stitch marker. Round number 11, we are again single crocheting all the way around. All right, move the stitch marker up. Round number 12, our last time single crocheting all the way around, for now at least. All right, move the stitch marker up. All right, round number 13 is where we're going to kind of start making the booty of the chicken. So as you can see, we've kind of obviously got his little butt right here. So we're going to kind of start making some of the adjustments that we need to get his butt. So that's where you should really start to see it come to life. So we're going to start with 10 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. Next, we're going to do a decrease. So for the chicken, we are going to be using an invisible decrease just because it's going to be visible on his body, but you can always just do a regular decrease if the invisible decrease is tricky for you. So for the invisible decrease, we're going to take our hook and we're going to insert it under the front loop of the next stitch, just like that. And then we're going to insert it right from there, keeping that loop on your hook, into the front loop of the second stitch. So now you should have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through pull through those 2 loops, and then yarn over and pull through 2 loops again. All right, now we're going to do 18 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Now another decrease. All right. And another 10 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Perfect. Move the stitch marker. All right, round 14, we're going to start with a single crochet and an increase 4 times. So, single crochet, increase number 1, single crochet, increase 2, single crochet, increase 3, single crochet, increase 4. All right, now we're going to do 24 single crochets. 1, oops, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. All right, now we're gonna do an increase and then a single crochet, and then we're gonna do that 4 times. So I'll start with the first increase, single, increase number 2, single, increase number 3, single, increase number 4, single. Move your stitch marker up. All right, now for rounds 15 through 18, we are going to just be single crocheting all the way around, which should be 48 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48. All right, move the stitch marker up. Now just go around 3 more times. All right, round 16 complete. Move the stitch marker up. Round 17. Again, just single crocheting all the way around. All right, round 17 complete. Move the stitch marker up. All right, round 18, same thing, single crochet all the way around. All right, move your stitch marker up. All right, for round 19, you're going to do a single crochet and then a decrease, and we're going to repeat that 3 times. Again, use whatever kind of decrease you are comfortable with, but I'm going to be using the invisible decrease. Single, decrease number 2, single, decrease number 3. The invisible decrease can be a little more challenging, so if you want to start with just a regular decrease, go for it. All right, now we're going to do 30 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Oops. All right, now we're going to do a decrease and then a single crochet, and we're going to do that 3 times as well. So decrease number 1, single, decrease number 2, single, oops, decrease, again, if it ever slips off your hook, do whatever you're comfortable with, but if you need to restart that stitch, go for it. Single. All right, you can kind of see the butt forming a little bit where it kind of comes out. Move the stitch marker up. All right, and make sure that you're placing the stitch marker in the next stitch and you're not placing it in the last stitch you did. So if you need to look at it from the side while placing the stitch marker, go for it. All right, I'm gonna take a second to put the eyes into my chicken. Just now that we have an idea of where the butt is gonna be, we can put the eyes on. So grab your safety eyes, grab the backs. All right. So on this chicken, you can see it's kind of hard to see with the beak, but we can kind of estimate how far away the eyes are from each other by counting like stitches above and below, kind of around that area. Or just counting around the beak, because as you can see right here, we can still see the stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There should be about 6 stitches in between the eyes. So we're gonna just kind of stick them in somewhere, and then you can kind of, got away from me. Stick it in. If you want to know the exact row that we're putting them on, we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're putting them in between rounds 10 and 11. So let's count on ours. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Perfect. Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches. And I'm actually, because the eyes take up about 1 stitch with that, I'm actually going to go 7 stitches over. Oh my goodness. And place the eye. 7 stitches apart from the edge of this eye. So technically the eyes are 8 stitches apart. Just for reference, if you feel like they're too close, because you are going to be putting a beak right here in between, you can always move them like just 1 stitch apart. But that looks good to me, so we're going to throw the backs on. All right, and make sure you keep pushing the backs on till you hear it snap. It won't be a loud snap, but you'll be able to tell. Perfect. All right. Mr. Chicken has his eyes. Let's keep going. All right, for round 20, We're going to be doing 5 single crochets and then a decrease, and we're going to be repeating that 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, decrease. Again, use whatever kind of decrease you're comfortable with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, decrease number 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, decrease number 3 failed. Do that again. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, decrease 4. Oh. Apparently my hook is feeling extra slippery today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh my goodness. Decrease number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, decrease number 6. All right, move your stitch marker. All right, round 21, 4 single crochets and a decrease, repeated 6 times. 1, 2, my goodness, 3, 4, decrease number 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, decrease number 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, decrease number 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, decrease number 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, decrease 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, decrease 6. All right, move that stitch marker up. Round 22, 3 single crochets and a decrease 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, decrease. There we go. Oh man, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 3, 1, 2, oh my goodness, 3, decrease 4, 1, 2, 3, decrease 5, 1, 2, 3, decrease 6. All right, move that stitch marker up. Now we're going to take a minute to kind of stuff the body a little bit. Grab your stuffing. We're just going to start filling him up. Stuff it in kind of small increments just so that we can get it really filled all the way in. All right. I like to make sure I kind of manipulate my stuffing a little bit, make sure that the booty is nice and stuffed. So, perfect. All right, round 23, we're going to be doing 2 singles and a decrease 6 times. 1, 2. At this point, it starts to get kind of tight for the invisible decrease, so I'm just going to go back to a regular decrease. Just making sure to keep the tension nice and tight so we don't get any weird extra loops. Decrease 1. 1, 2, decrease 2, 2, decrease 3, 1, 2, decrease 4, 1, 2, decrease 5, 1, 2, decrease 6. Move your stitch marker up. All right, round 24 is going to be single decrease 6 times, so single, decrease 1, single, decrease 2, single, decrease 3, single, decrease 4, single, decrease 5, single, decrease 6. All right, at this point I like to just take my stitch marker completely out because we only have one round left. Maybe if I can get it out. That way I don't forget to take it out and it's not difficult to take out. All right, final round 25. We're gonna do 6 decreases. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. At this point it gets kind of tight, so just do your best. And then we're going to finish off just with the slip stitch, so insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, and then pull through the second loop as well. Pull it out, and I like to get a little bit of extra yarn, cut it off, pull it all the way through. All right, now we still have that little hole in the butt, so we're just gonna thread our yarn needle. Maybe. All right, and I'm just gonna tie a knot at the end here because we're gonna be using it for a second and I don't wanna have to try and keep it on. All right, tie a knot. All right, to finish it off, we're gonna take our yarn needle and we're gonna insert it into the front loop only of the very last round. And we're gonna do that all the way around to all the stitches. So you should do it 6 times. That's 3, 4. It can get kind of hard to see as you get to the last one because it just all kind of becomes one. So do your best. 6. All right. Oh no. My yarn got in a knot. There we go. All right. If it isn't already closed like mine is, you're just going to kind of pull on this yarn a little bit, just kind of softly, and it'll close it up. All right, so we're going to insert our yarn into the chicken, or our needle, sorry. And I'm going to try and bring it out of the booty, and we're going to insert it back into that same hole and just get it to the desired spot. So just get it up to the top center of his butt, and we're going to be pulling it down this way to create the booty. So we're going to insert it kind of not in the center where we closed it, but just kind of back a few rounds from there. So just insert it into there, and I like to pull it up kind of back to the kind of similar spot to where we had it start, just so it creates a loop. Kind of pull it tight, not too tight, because then we're going to start getting a weird little dimple right there. But just tight enough that you can really see his booty. And then I'm just going to kind of blend that yarn needle in a little bit, make sure that it's got plenty stuff it's going to hold in place. Cut it off. All right, and there you have baby booty chicken's body, eyes, and his booty. All right, now we're gonna start making the wings. So once again, wrap the yarn around your fingers, making an X. Under the first one, grab the second one, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through. Hold on to this yarn on the hook, pull this one tightly. All right, chain 1, maybe. All right, and then in the second chain from the hook, tighten that a little more. We're gonna do 8 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. Now, I'm not going to use a stitch marker for these ones, but you totally can. I just find that they're kind of small, so it's kind of hard to maneuver a stitch marker in there. So I'm going to count for this one instead. All right. So we're going to do 8 single crochets around, and we're going to do that 3 times around. So no increases, no decreases. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And again, make sure you're flipping it so that way the right side is facing out. All right, we're going to do 8 around again. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, oops, 8. All right, one more time around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, we're not going to stuff the wing at all. So for this last round, we're going to flatten it out. And we're going to insert our hook and we're going to go through both sides. And you're in a single crochet 4 across. So 1, again, make sure you're going through both sides of the stitches. 2, 3, 4. Cut the yarn. Pull it through. One wing done. All right, and we're just gonna repeat that again for a second wing. So again, make your X, under, over, pull through. 1, pull it tight, chain another one, 8 single crochets, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, 8 single crochets around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Remember to flip it. All right, a couple more times around. 1, 2, all right, fold it in half. single crochet through both sides 4 times. Oh my gosh. It can be kind of hard to get through both sides just because it gets kind of thick. So just take your time, be patient. All right. Cut that off. We're officially done with all of our white yarn. All right, second wing is done. All right, now we're gonna grab out our yellow yarn. And we're gonna start on the legs. So we're gonna start with our X, under, over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull tight, chain 1, and then in the second chain from the hook, we're going to do 8 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. Now this part is kind of tricky to do his little toes. So in this first stitch, we're going to start with a single crochet. Then we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and then we're going to do a single crochet back into that same stitch that we went into before. All right, and again, same stitch, single crochet, chain 2, single crochet in that same stitch. All right, one more time. Single crochet in that same stitch, chain 2, 1, 2, single crochet in that same stitch. Now I like to just secure it to the next stitch, or to that same stitch that we were in before, and use a slip stitch to, just kind of secure it so that it's not going to go anywhere. Cut the yarn. Make sure you pull that slip stitch tight. All right, and then you should kind of have the circle with his little feet, or with the little toes right there. Go ahead and place that off to the side for now. Grab your yellow yarn again. Make your X, under, over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull tight, chain 1, 8 single crochets in that second chain from hook. Four, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. Single crochet in that first loop, chain 2, single crochet in the same loop, single crochet in the same loop again, chain 2, 1, 2, single crochet in the same loop, one more time, single crochet in the same loop, chain 2, 1, 2, single crochet in that same loop, finish with a slip stitch in that same loop. Cut your yarn, pull it all the way through and pull that slip stitch tight. And then you can kind of play with and adjust the chains because they're not going to sit like perfectly even, so you can kind of play with where they are. But again, you have his 3 little toes and a circle. Perfect. All right. Last part we have to make is the mouth. So there's a couple different ways you can do this. You can obviously change it if you need to. But for this specific mouth, we're going to be kind of doing what's similar to the wings, but we're not folding them in half at the end. So as you can see, we have our little ring, and then it's just sewn in. So we're going to start same way, under, over, pull up a loop, yarn over, loop, pull tight, chain 1, single crochet 8 in the second chain from hook, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you can kind of pull this one tight, and it'll kind of help adjust that small circle in the middle a little bit. So, and we're just going to go around with 8 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, we're gonna flip it. And then this is where you can kind of change it up a bit if you want. It's kind of just up to you and how you want your beak to look. If you kind of are going for a little bit of a smaller beak, you can stop there. But we are going to add a second round of 8 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. Go ahead and slip stitch to fasten off. Make sure you leave a decent amount of yarn. Pull through all the way. All right, beak is done. All right, grab out your yarn needle as we are going to sew all of the parts onto our chicken body. So I like to start with the wings just because they kind of are the easiest to sew on as far as placement goes, but you can start with whatever body part you want. So thread your yarn needle. Struggling a little with that today. All right. Again, just kind of tie a knot at the end of it, just because we are going to be doing a lot of sewing, so you don't want to have to try and keep the yarn on the needle the whole time. All right, so I kind of use the eyes as my guide for sewing it on. So we're gonna sew them onto this line right below where the eye is. So go below an eye, follow it all the way to the side. And I like to place them about 3 stitches away from the eyes. So we're gonna count 1, 2, 3, go down 1. I'm turning the chicken around just so I'm sewing from right to left because I am. But then on the other side, obviously you'll keep the chicken the right way up so that I just like to sew from the eye and sew it backwards so that way I don't get too close to the eye. All right, and you're just gonna sew it as you would anything else by going, just stay along that same line the whole time. Just going in each stitch on the body, then the next stitch on the wing. This way you can kind of adjust. If you're going away from the eye, you can kind of adjust the placement a little bit more. So if you notice it getting too close to the eye, maybe you've started it too close, you can pull it further back. That way you don't want it to be too far back. So that's why I like to start at the eye, from keeping it from like moving closer to the eye, but then I can also control how far back it goes. All right. Just make sure we're not missing stitches. Sorry, he kind of rolled away from me there. Oops. And make sure we're going through both the front and back loops of the crochet on the wings. All right, and then to finish them off, just kind of stick it in, and then I like to bring it out just somewhere else on the body and pull it tight and then cut it off. I just find that it kind of helps hold it on a little bit better if you pull it through a part of the body instead of just cutting it right there. All right, now because we measured that side, we're just gonna do that exact same count over on the other side. So again, start with tying your yarn needle. Again, we're going to place it down 1 row from the eye and 3 stitches over. So 1, 2, 3. Go ahead and stick it in right there. Obviously make sure that you're going the right way. Perfect. Now I really like our yarn needles just because they are because they're plastic, you can kind of move them, so this gives you a lot of room to be able to really get into the stitches you want them to get into so that you can get the right angle for the wings. If you want them to be like angled forward a little bit more, you can always sew them forward, but we're just going to sew ours straight down. But again, you can sew them on wherever you want. Right, to finish it off by going into the chicken and out somewhere else on his body. Pull it tight. Cut it off. All right. And your baby booty chicken now has wings. Oh, perfect. All right. And they're gonna kind of flap up a little bit, but that's okay. Now, let's move on to the feet. Now the feet are kind of difficult because you want to make sure that you get it on the right direction. So this first string that we started this magic ring with, I am going to cut just a little bit shorter so that we still have some string on there, but we're not getting extremely long. All right, go ahead and tie it to your yarn needle. All right, so with the feet, we want the side with this yarn tail, we want that to go towards the body. If you want to, you can always, if you like one side better than the other as far as like the top of it looks, because you're really only going to see this part, you're not really going to see the circle. So if you like, for instance, if I like this side better, because this is the right side, and I want it to be facing up, obviously this is not, just kind of tuck, use your crochet hook or your fingers, pull that yarn tail to the other side through that middle loop. That way you can tie it facing his body. So it just kind of depends on what side you like better. Anyways, and we're going to kind of place them directly below the eyes. So just come straight down from the eyes. You can angle them if you want to. You can sew them straight. Just kind of whatever you think looks good. But we are not going to sew the toes on. We're going to leave the toes as are, or as they are. Just grab it and sew it to the body. And you're just going to sew around the circular part. Oops, caught on his wing. So again, we're leaving those toes unworked. We're just going to work around the circle. Again, make sure we're going in every single stitch so that it gets a nice flat on the bottom because we want him to be able to stand. All right, again, leaving the toes unworked. We're just going to stop when we get to the other side of the circle. Stick it into the body. Pull it out somewhere else. Make sure that it's you stick it in like obviously right next to where you would sew it so that you can't see the yellow. Cut it off. And if you need to kind of tuck with your crochet hook, if you need to kind of tuck in that little tail of the yellow so that it disappears, you can. But now you have one leg on your chicken. All right, so for the other leg, you're just gonna kind of focus on making sure that it's even spacing with the eye as far as between the two legs. So grab your other leg. Again, pick which side you kind of want to be your top side. first yarn from the magic ring a little shorter. Pull that yarn tail through if you need to. Thread the yarn needle. All right. And one thing to make sure when you're sewing his legs on, make sure that they are at the same angle. So if you're sewing them both going forward, make sure they're both forward. If you're sewing them at an angle, they're both at an angle. That'll help it look really even and nice. So I kind of have mine at an angle, so we're going to keep this at an angle. All right. Go ahead and sew it on. Just again, we're going through every stitch. We're going through the front and back loops of the stitch. Nice and tight. Use the flexible hook to your advantage as you're sewing it in so that you really make sure to get it in the right position. All right, finish through that last stitch. Go in through the chicken, come out somewhere else on his body. Cut it off. All right, now our baby booty chicken has his feet. All right, last step in making this adorable baby booty chicken is going to be sewing the beak on. This is probably the most challenging piece to sew on just because you want to make sure that you get it in the right spot. Make sure that yarn tail is tucked in to the beak. Kind of give it a little stuffing. So we're not going to stuff the beak. Tie your yarn needle on. I always like to tie the yarn needle on before I decide where the piece is gonna go, just that way when I get it placed I can immediately start sewing it on. All right, so you want it obviously in between the two eyes, centered going this way. And we kind of want the top of the beak to sit at the middle of the eyes. So I like to start when I'm sewing something specific on like that. I like to start my very first stitch in a place where I know I need the beak to go. So again, centered on the middle of the eyes, all directions. That way I know the beak needs to go there, so I can kind of sew it around that one spot. And then as you start sewing, if you need to make adjustments, you can always undo it. Or you can always just kind of, if you want it to be a little bit thinner of a beak like that, you can sew it thinner. If you want it to be squished that way, you can sew it that way. You can sew it on circle. You can sew it however you want to sew it on. But for the sake of this video, we are going to sew it on in a circle. Sometimes it's hard with his booty to find a good angle to set him at, so if you need to figure out what angle works best for you as you're sewing, definitely do that. So total, your beak is probably going to go down about 3 rows from top to bottom. So you're going to have 1, 2, 3 rows covered by the beak. Again, that's if you're doing it this way. You can totally change it. Make sure you're keeping it fairly even spaced in between the eyes so we're not going over to one eye more than another. Make sure it's kind of in the middle, and it's okay if it's a little funky, a little off. As you can see, this one, the circle, the middle ring is kind of off to the center. And that's just because of the way I sewed it on, just where I started mine. So everyone's going to be different. So if your circle isn't right there, totally fine. That's just where mine ended up. But as you can see, mine is still totally normal. I did not make any adjustments to it. That is the nice thing about crochet, is that everyone's projects end up a little bit different. It's unique, so it's handmade, it's your own. You can change it however you want. Make it what you think looks best. Because after all, it is your project. All right, to finish off, pull it through a spot in his body. Cut off excess string. All right. And you may end up with a couple little yellow fuzzies on him. That's just normal, so make sure you get those off. Tuck in those yellow yarns again, like from where we pulled that through. Oops, I got a little stuffing in that. There we go. All right, and there you have Jackson, the baby booty chicken, all complete. Before you go, I'd love to see your finished chicken. Share your creations on social media and tag us at Okey Crochet so we can admire your amazing work. Plus, it's a great way to inspire other crocheters to join the fun. Happy crocheting!